द वे फॉरवर्ड इज तुहाडा बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। मैं तुहाडा होस्ट हरजोत सिंह। अज असी तुहाडे सामने एक ऐसी शख्सियत नूं लैके आए हैं जिन्हां ने साडी कम्यूनिटी दा सिर उच्चा कीता है और साडे सारे बच्चों लई एक बहुत वड्डी इंस्पिरेशन बने। अज असी गल करांगे यूएस दी हिस्टरी विच फस्ट इलैक्टेड सिख जज मनप्रीत सिंह जी नाल। मनप्रीत जी तुहाडा बहुत बहुत स्वागत है।
Thank you, Sat Sri Akal. Thank you for having me here today.
सत श्री अकाल मनप्रीत जी। सब तो पहला साडे सारे व्यूअर्स की तरफ तो साडी सारी कम्यूनिटी की तरफ तो तुहानू बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद और बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया साडे सारिਆਂ ਲਈ ਇਹ अचीवमेंट लैन दी। You know, it becomes an inspiration for the whole community, for our kids. Thank you.
नहीं बधाइयां ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ। This is not my victory, it's our community's victory. I'm very proud of being a Sikh and carrying Guru Gobind Singh Ji's last name so that the whole world knows that we are here and we're here to stay and represent. So this is the community's victory, not just mine.
Absolutely, absolutely. सारी कम्यूनिटी इन अचीवमेंट्स ਦੇ ਨਾਲ बड़ा प्राउड फील करती है। साडी रिकग्निशन होंदी है, लोगों को पता चलता है। एज यू सेड, you share that last name and a lot of us share that name, Singh. और सब तो बड़ी गल मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को दसना चाਹਾਂ, मनप्रीत सिंह जी is not just an appointed judge, she is an elected judge. ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੜ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਹਨ ਹੈਰਿਸ ਕਾਊਂਟੀ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਕਾਊਂਟੀ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰਿਸ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ, ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਸ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਸੀਗੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਲੰਬੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਸੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ 'ਚ ਸੀਗੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ 'ਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਸੀਗੀ 4 ਬੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਜਿੱਤ ਕੇ ਆਈ ਹੈਡ ਅ ਰਨ ਆਫ। ਸੋ ਮੀ ਐਂਡ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਪਲੇਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਰਨ ਆਫ 'ਚ ਗਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਮਈ 'ਚ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਸਾਲ। ਸੋ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਲਾਸਟ ਈਅਰ ਮਾਰਚ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਲੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਜਿੱਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਫਿਰ ਮਈ 'ਚ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਨਵੰਬਰ 'ਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ I had third time was a charm, and then I beat my Republican opponent, and so then I became the judge, and I took office January ch ਪਹਿਲੀ ਦਿਨ ਚ ਸਾਡੀ oath ਹੈਗਾ, so that's what I did, and I've been in office since January 1st.
जी जी जी, इट्स ऑसम। एज आई सैड साडी कम्यूनिटी हले भी इस मुल्क विच नवी है, उन्होंने इन चीज़ों का आइडिया नहीं है कि इन पोजीशनस वास्ते भी इलैक्शन होंदी है। उन्होंने सिर्फ एक इलैक्शन का पता है, प्रेजिडेंट के इलैक्शन का। और इस करके असी इनकरेज करते हैं अपनी कम्यूनिटी नू इन लोकल इलैक्शनस नू समझन, इन्हां विच पार्टिसिपेट करन। आई वुड अगेन अर्ज यू, सानू प्लीज़ थोड़ा जिहा दसो जिहड़ा जज बनन दा प्रोसैस है इस मुल्क विच, हाउ डज दैट वर्क?
So ਸਾਡੇ every state is different. So ਮੇਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਟੈਕਸਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ। So the judges in Texas are elected, and it is very important। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਰ ਦੇਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਉਹ presidential election ਚ। But really these local elections, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਹੋਣ ਜਾਂ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਹੋਣ, they're actually more important than your presidential elections, because ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ day in and day out ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਤੌਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ local elections 'ਚ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ। So my election happened to be on the same cycle as our governor cycle. So I did have a governor's race that was on the top of my ticket here, and that's why I had to go through my election I had to go through a primary process, because in each party you have to have the winner of the party. So मैं Democrat the party which मेरी लड़ाई सी ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲੇ, and then after that I had it against the Republican opponent. So I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. This is a very big source of pride to me that in the 3rd largest city in the nation, we were able to win not just one election, not 2, but all 3 elections, and by a margin that makes me very proud to have the seat now.
Absolutely, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਬਾਰਕਬਾਦ ਹੈ। ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਸ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਯੂ ਸੈਡ ਯੂ ਵਰ ਬੋਰਨ ਇਨ ਹਿਊਸਟਨ, ਇਜ਼ ਇਟ ਰਾਈਟ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ। My parents, ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ in the 70s and they settled here in Houston, Texas. ਉਸ time ਤੇ ਬਸ 15 ਸਿੱਖ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਇੰਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗੇ। ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਉਸ time ਤੇ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ and that was in 1977 and so ਉਹੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਤਵਾਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। That's where my kids were born. ਮੇਰੀ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੋਈ ਸੀਗੀ, so everything I is very Houston, and I am still here, a part of this community. So from my Sikh life to my American life and my legal life, I have lived here in the politics of Houston, Texas.
जी जी मनप्रीत जी, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜੋ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾਈਫ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਇਨਫਲੂਐਂਸ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਰੋਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਅਚੀਵਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਜਾਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਿਫੋਰ ਬਿਕਮਿੰਗ ਅ ਜੱਜ ਵਰ ਯੂ ਇਨਟੂ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਲ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਮੈਂ 20 ਸਾਲ ਲਈ ਟ੍ਰਾਇਲ ਅਟਰਨੀ ਸੀਗੀ। ਇਹੀ ਕੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੇਸ ਸੀਗੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਹਫਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਇਸ ਕੋਰਟ 'ਚ ਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਰਿਸ ਕਾਉਂਟੀ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਲੇ ਕਾਉਂਟੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸ। So I really enjoy being in the law practice and being in what we call litigation. ਮਤਲਬ ਕੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਮੈਂ ਪੇਪਰ ਵਰਕ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਸੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ transactional ਕੰਮ। I did strictly litigation. So the judge that I am now is the same type of judges I would go in front of for my cases every week.
And Manpreet ji, let me ask you, did you ever feel any different being in those courts, you know, the way you were received by the jury, by the judges, by the opposing counsels, by the clients? Did you ever feel different?
Very good question. I mean, most people always assume that Texas is backwards, right? We always think, oh, ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੱਥੇ cowboy boots ਪਾ ਕੇ ਤੇ you know, cowboy hat ਨਾਲ ਤੌਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, and they are in a lot of ways. So when I started practicing, most everybody in our courthouse were white males. And so when I came in, and I was one of the first I definitely was one of the first Sikh attorneys in Houston, but also another person of color. There were not very many Indo-Pakistani attorneys. I think there was only 15 of us. And so it was very different to come. And then to have a name like Manpreet. So this is actually, you know, ਸਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਵੇ everybody ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ 'ਚ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ they call me Monica, ਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਕੰਮ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹਾਂ they call me Manpreet. So they all, you know, people said, why don't you use Monica in the court system instead of Manpreet? I said, look, this is my name. And they did learn it. And so every time you go to court and they say, how do you say your name? It was always a point in time of education for them to say, where are you from? And that was for me to be able to tell my story and my parents' story and really every Sikh story. So it was very difficult the first number of years that I was practicing, being one of the only minorities in this county. But in the time that I've been practicing, in the 20 years, it has really changed. And it is a beautiful thing to see that there's so many different races, so many different religions, and so many different types of people that also enter the courtroom. And so I don't find it to be as difficult and as different as it was when I first started.
You know, I am an attorney as well. और जब मैं प्रैक्टिस शुरू की थी, you know, my biggest apprehension was कि जब मैं कोर्ट जाऊँगा तो इस पग नू किवें रिसीव करेंगे. I was doing litigation as well. So पग नू किवें रिसीव करेगी jury particularly, I was very concerned. But it was very well received. बड़ा प्यार मिला, हमेशा मिलता है. But you know, we have a different impression about Texas, as you said. It's very heartening to know कि it's not that bad.
Yeah, and by chance, my very first case happened to be an American Sikh who was my client.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't, they didn't come in because I was sick. It just by chance. And so I had the same issue. I was thinking, you know, I'm a Sikh. This guy is American Sikh. They're going to say, oh, he just hired her because they're Sikhs. And then also, how do I deal with somebody with a pagadi? But you're right, juries, you know, as long as you are open with them, you talk to them about it, they do receive it well. I think what we learned, and we learned this after 9/11, right, is that as long as we start to communicate and talk about who we are as a people, really the society is ready to accept us and ready to learn about us, but we need to get out and educate people and let them know who we are.
ਐਬਸੋਲੂਟਲੀ ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ US ਦੇ ਫਰਸਟ ਸਿੱਖ ਵੂਮਨ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਇਲੈਕਟਡ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਜੱਜ ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੋਏ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਨੋ ਆਫ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਡਿਸੈਂਟ ਬੌਬੀ ਜਿੰਦਲ ਐਂਡ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ that we have to stop being hyphenated Americans. So what he meant was that we don't need to wear a ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟਿਟੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਲਚਰ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਲੀਜੀਅਸ ਆਈਡੈਂਟਿਟੀ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਜੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਐਜ਼ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੈਂਟਸ ਤੋ ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਕੈਰੀ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਜਸਟ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਹੈਵ ਵਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟਿਟੀ ਵਿਚ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟਿਟੀ I would like to ask you in particular ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਦੇ poster child ਹੋ you were born in this country ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪਿਕਚਰਸ ਵੇਖੀਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਭ ਸਰੂਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਕਲਚਰ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਨਟੇਨ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਾਰੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੜੇ ਕਲੋਜ਼ਲੀ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਟਿਡ ਹੋ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਵਿਊਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਆਈ ਵਾਸ ਟਰਾਈਂਗ ਟੂ ਗੈਟ ਯੂ ਫॉर ਦਿਸ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਐਂਡ ਹੈਡ ਟੂ ਗੋ ਥਰੂ ਯੋਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਦੈਟਸ ਹਾਊ ਆਈ ਕੁਡ ਰੀਚ ਯੂ ਇੰਨੇ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਟਾਈਜ਼ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਹਨ how do you think those ties with the community, that culture, that faith has influenced where you have reached today? ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ achievement ਹੈ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ faith ਦਾ culture ਦਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਰੋਲ ਹੈ?
So I don't know Bobby Jindal personally, but I wholly disagree with his assertion that we should drop our hyphenation. I am definitely American, but I'm also a Sikh. And similarly, we meet with Christians every day who identify with their Christian faith. In fact, we all take off Christmas break for their faith. So to say that we should all act like we don't have a background or we don't have something that grounds us, to me, is disingenuous to who we are as a people. My Sikh faith, particularly with the way that my parents have raised me through seva, through qom, through kirtkarni, vanchakni, this is something that I watched my parents doing, so it wasn't just something they lectured me about. I watched them do it, and I really see the benefit in our Guru's teachings. And so because of that, it's hard for me to say, let's separate what that is. And if we try to separate that, it just doesn't, it's not me then. The reason I feel like I'm a Sikh is because I choose to be a Sikh and I love this faith. So I think if we don't all represent each other, as Guru Gobind Singh Ji asked us to do, to stand out of the crowd and say this is who we are, then we're not doing what we were asked to do by our Guruji.
Those are very encouraging and very inspiring words. Can I ask you, how does your Sikh faith influence your being a judge?
I think a lot of the ideals that America has, while we've not realized any of them, we've seen how, we treat African Americans in this country and equality and all the rest. I think that the Sikh ideals that we have are actually where American ideals should be in life. You think about Guru Nanak Dev Ji and this fight for equality, the fact that I have rights as a woman, from a Sikh, from 1469, and women only had the right to vote here in the United States in 1919. Our Sikh ideals are actually where American ideals should end up. And so when you think about, when I look at somebody who comes through our courtroom, I told our Gurdwara did a kirtan for me just when I was elected, and I told the community, because right, without our Sangat holding us accountable, really it's very hard to do any type of job. But I told my Sangat, I said, may I never forget that sabna jiyan ka ek data so main visar na jaye. And so when I look at somebody who comes through the courtroom, and when I see somebody and what they're going through, may I never forget, we came from the same place, we're going to the same place. May I never forget that. So the way I feel about what the Guru's taught me really does help me every single day in how I handle the courtroom. Now, I'm still new, but may I never forget these teachings that have been taught to me since I was a child.
Manpreet ji, मैं तो एक चीज़ ज़रूर पूछना चाहूँगा. You and your family are so closely tied to the community. How has the community in Texas reacted to this elevation of yours?
The community, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੀ community ਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, some good greatness comes from it. We come together very fast. And so that was really pretty, and it was beautiful, and it was a blessing I needed. Without my Sangat here, it's not going to be it's not a journey I'd like to take, right? We have Guru Granth and Guru Panth, so I needed the Panth behind me with it. But I will say, and you started off with, I think it was like the second or third question when you talked about voting in our community. Our community is not good at participating in the political process, and our community is not good at participating in things that affect them. And so I think that this was a big learning point, and it's a learning point that we should have. And what really, I think, struck me in my election was ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੁੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੀ, ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਲੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਵੋਟ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਜਾਂ ਪਾਣੇ ਲਈ, then what's going to make it work that you say this is important for me to be a part of the process? This is something we need to work on. And I think it's not just a problem with the Houston Sikhs. I think it's a problem probably with most Sikhs across the country. We need to learn how to get more engaged and be a part of the community.
Yeah, as we said in the beginning, वो सिर्फ एक इलेक्शन में पार्टिसिपेट करना पसंद कर दें, वो है कि ये प्रेसिडेंट दी इलेक्शन. बाकी लोकल इलेक्शन, छोटी मोटी इलेक्शन में वो अपना टाइम ज़ाया नहीं कर दे. That's across the nation.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Manpreet ji, एक क्वेश्चन जो हमेशा साढ़े community members raise करते हैं, and as I said, क्योंकि they're new in this country, they're trying to understand the process, they're trying to understand the society. As a judge, it confuses because where they come from, जिसे इंडिया तो आंदे हैं, उथे judges जेडे उन्हां दी election नहीं होंदी. So here, even they see at the Supreme Court level कि एक democratic administration उसको appoint कर रही है, एक Republican administration appoint कर रही है, then they go through the process. Even for at your level, there's election, and you represent a party. तुसी एक Democratic party तो आंदे हो. How is it that fairness, that independence, that impartiality is maintained after you become a judge? That's something that baffles the community. They want to know.
Well, it just doesn't baffle just the Sikh community. It actually is a question that we get posed even within our own community here. Not every state elects judges. Texas happens to be one of them. Now, it is a very important question to say, if you run as a Democrat or if you run as a Republican, how do you maintain that fairness and impartiality? And I would suspect to say, or what I tell people when I'm running and even now, is that's the personality and character of who I am. And so regardless of what my party is or what my background is, I've made and taken an oath to be fair and impartial when I have and hear a case. And so that's the oath that we stand behind. It's similar to the oath that you and I took when we became attorneys. We said that we would defend our clients, whether we, believed in the same way that they believed or not. They had a right to their day in court, and we would defend them. And so similarly, I think, when we come to our positions where we make a commitment to do something a certain way, we do it. And so for me, I actually look at the Democratic Party as something that's idealistic in terms of fairness and equality and justice. So really my ideals from the party perspective and how I look at how do I serve on my judge's capacity and how I practice my faith, they kind of all go together for me. So it's a little easier. I don't know how it would feel to be on the other side of the coin, But it is an interesting system that we have with the election of judges. But for now, that's how we have it. Other federal government, obviously, there's appointment system that you guys watch, and we see how their Supreme Court is chosen and appointed. And there are other states that also do it the same way. But remember that appointment system is also not flawless. It's just who's in power. So if, you know, for example, in Texas, we have a Republican governor. I would never have a chance at this seat as an appointment had we had this as an appointment elected by my governor here in Texas. So that's the interesting point that we should think about.
Yeah, you know, it's an achievement for the whole society. ਜਿਹੜੀ fairness or impartiality ਅਸੀਂ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਲਾਂ 'ਚ ਦੇਖੀਏ, most of the judges who, you know, Republican appointed, Trump appointed judges, and they were pretty impartial when it came to those election lawsuits all across the country, which made us very proud as Americans, didn't it?
Yes, and that's you know, that's the hope. When you put somebody up for appointment, it's the person's responsibility that they uphold the law and they are fair and just. So, you know, for me, I know we've talked about this being a sense of pride that I'm a Sikh who's serving in this capacity, but for me, it's also a sense of pride that, you know, a city of 5 million people voted for me to come in. Of course, all 5 million didn't vote for me, but the idea of having the will of the people speak up and not the will of just one person who's in power, it really makes a difference, in my opinion, on how I take this burden of being on this position.
ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ। ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ you know, you've become a role model for our kids. My 10-year-old daughter, when she saw your news, she was so inspired. She says, hey, I want to be a judge as well, like her. You know?
Oh, wow. see, this, when I hear this, it really, it kind of takes my breath away. You know, so we have investitures, which is basically like our inauguration when we get sworn in to go into office. And so I had decided this time that I'm going to invite kids, just because the Sikh youth camps that we do here in December in Houston, I've been a part of it for the last 26 years. So to me, the kids were a big deal and a big part of my life. So this is the thing that really got me. After the ceremony was over, there was 3 Sikh girls that came up to me, little girls, and they said, oh, Monica auntie, can I take a picture with you? And that's when I stopped and thought, oh my gosh, and now this is such a difference, that this is a big deal for them, that they now are saying we want to memorialize this moment. And I think that was the minute that I realized this is going to be something that will be helpful for everybody else to do something with this election. So I'm very happy that, you know, if there's a vehicle for the kids to be able to use this election, that they use it.
Absolutely. You know, everyone needs role models, everyone needs mentors, and as they say कि अपने जे दिखन वाला अगर position of power which तानु नजर आए, so you know, it gives a feeling to the kids that this person did it, I can do it as well. And it just raises their aspirations, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ hopes ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਔਰ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਅਚੀਵਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, it works you know, as an inspiration for them. ਤੁਸੀਂ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ you know, I'll ask you at 2 levels. One for the kids, and before that I'll ask you, you know, as a Sikh woman, as a working lady, as a person who has been born in this country, raised in this country, you know, you're being raised in this culture, and still you have made an effort. I've seen with your kids, you make effort with yourself, your family, other kids at the Gurdwara, to you know, maintain that culture, to maintain that history, to maintain that understanding of the faith. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ, ਮੇਰੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, they do face difficulties raising their kids in those ways, right? Kei non challenges and the easy way is to adopt the normal culture, the regular culture, right? There's an extra effort required जब तुसी language दे नाल उस सारी चीज़ दे नाल effort करदे हो कि वो चीज़ जिंदा रख सके की कहना चाहोगे तुसी उन working women नू who have to make this choice?
I think what's really important to remember is that it's not easy. And I honestly don't know where this journey is going to take me, right? मैं अजे भी पाल रही हैं कि मेरे मुंडे नू. I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, so I don't know किथे किथे साडे गुरुजी ने लाके जाणगे मेरे न्याणे नू. So I'm very cautious in saying that I'm the success story for it. I just think my thought is that if we don't put in what we want to for our kids, we don't have a chance in the end outcome, right? I don't know what my percentage is that this is going to end in the way I'd love for it to end in, but I do know that I tried and I'm trying to put every breadcrumb for them to go in that way. And what I would say is, we work so hard to make sure that we have tutors for our children, or they go to the right school, the right private school, and all the rest. To me, Sikhi is no different. I want to make sure that we get them in camps, and they get, they're in hymn corps, music competitions, or whatever it is with Punjabi school, whatever exposure I can get them. If I'm willing to give them access to all the American cultural things, for them to excel in the American culture, I need to give them access to all the Sikh cultural things and Sikh religious things to give them access there. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be successful in this. I just know that I have to put everything out there and try. My thought was always, if I'm going to do it for American culture, I have to do it for my own Sikhism. And so that to me is something that not just moms, I think the other thing too is to have the dads buy in. Dads don't babysit. These are dads' kids too. And dads don't, help raise. They're also the dads as well. So I think it's a buy-in from both parents that need to be there to at least show the kids this pathway and really just do ardas that they keep in that way and in the surup.
Manpreet ji, I'll ask you again. So, from the this platform where you stand now, where you've reached this achievement of yours, would you say to all parents, both moms and dads, your age, how much that Sikhi, that culture has been a factor in your achievement?
I couldn't have done it without Sikhi. This is the base. I'm very lucky in the fact that Guruji gave me my parents. They really not just raised me in Sikhi, but lived it to where I learned from watching them. So to say that there's a certain percentage of me that is Sikh and a certain percentage of me that didn't catch what they taught me, I can't separate the two. The Sikh faith, the belief system, and everything about it is really where I'm at. And as we know, without Guru's Kirpa, I have no chance. So really the grace, the glory goes to him. And I think we should always, not forget that and remember that this is not something that I was able to do on my own, and I can't ever take the credit that way.
Oh, we appreciate you saying that. Manpreet ji, ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਥੋੜੇ ਅਗਰ youth ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, sky is the limit, they say, and they also say it's a very limited thought when you say that sky is the limit, right? A country ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ immense opportunities present ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ. What would you say are some of the things that our kids need to be doing so that they can improve their prospects in life? ਜਿਹੜੀ success ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ boundary ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ success ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, but what would be your message to our youth?
I actually enjoy working with the youth. as I mentioned before, I've been a part of the Sikh camp for so many years here in Houston, the organization of it. So for me, I think what kids need to remember and know is, yes, the sky's the limit, but sometimes you don't even think about options without seeing options. And so to have this as a presented option, and honestly, I didn't run to become judge because I was gonna be one of the first. I didn't want become an attorney because I was gonna be one of the first. I did it because I was passionate about it and I loved it. And so I think if you follow, this sounds, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਦਾ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, but it's true. If you follow what your passion is, you'll be as good as you feel. They always say you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And that's true. And so I think what the youth needs to know is, if you find something that you relate to and you think you can do it, do it. You can be the first. And if you're not the first and you need to see that somebody else has done this, just know that these options are all there. We are now, in this community and in this country for 50 years solidly. I know we've been here since the early 1900s, but 50 years, I'll be 50 in a few years, but I know solidly we've been in this country for a long time now, to where at least there's somebody in a profession that you can look to and say, I can be that person. And so I challenge you to do that. Look to that person, find your North Star and run for it, and look at opportunities that you may have never seen before.
ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ। ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, other than being a successful Sikh personal, you are a successful professional. ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ youth ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ ਦੱਸੋ, getting into college is becoming really difficult. ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ top schools and they have stopped looking at SAT scores. So we don't know what our kids, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੈਗੇ, they don't even know what to do to get into these schools. Do you have some guidance for our kids?
I'm also navigating that with my eldest son right now. What a different world it is than when even I applied to college and law school. So first of all, I have to say to the kids, I am so sorry that you're having to go through how hard it is to get into college. It was not like that before. But, I would encourage our Sikh kids have a benefit of being a part of our Sikh religion. For example, my son plays the taus, and he participates in the Himkund music competitions. I have asked him to highlight that within his college application to set him apart. If you do kirtan or learn tabla or whatever other aspects from the Gurdwara that you can do or within our community, use our community to lift you up and set you apart. And I think we are, while we're, the 5th largest religion, we're still a minority enough to where it's different. And it can be something that you can highlight. Being a Sikh can be a good, diverse aspect for people in college admissions to see. So I would encourage the youth to highlight being a Sikh and the attributes we bring as Sikhs.
Manpreet ji, I understand that you're associated with a lot of Sikh associations, other associations as well, but a lot of Sikh associations like Sikh Coalition, I believe.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little, like what are these different organizations which we have in our communities, which our kids can benefit by?
So I think I definitely will say the Sikh Coalition has really, really catapulted Sikh education, Sikh profession, and any arena, and really fought those battles for us. It was created after 9/11, as many people know. But what's really important about them, I'll tell you, here in Texas, for example, we've had a lot of changes happen, and it's been attributed to the Sikh Coalition. But Texas textbooks, for example, we are the largest purchasers of textbooks. The Sikh Coalition got Sikhism in the 6th and 10th grade textbooks. Once they did that in Texas, that has gone across a lot of state lines. And as you see, we're still, as an organization, fighting for other states to incorporate Sikhism. That's one aspect of it. Now, I know that we have a sheriff's office who has Sikh cadets, and we have Sikh deputies. In fact, I had my Sikh deputy help me in our courtroom. So these are all wins that we've had through the Sikh Coalition. And I think that once they break the barriers for these accommodation policies in different arenas and areas, our kids have no bounds. There's no limitations to what you can see and where you want to be when we have organizations like the Sikh Coalition who are willing to litigate for us or find the accommodations that we need to get. So I think, you know, getting involved even in that organization to not only further whatever it is that you may need to have personally, but really for the rest of the community. I think my greatest joy, even within the American community, I was on the board of the ACLU, which is American Civil Liberties Union. There gives me no greater pride than what the service I've been able to do and able to watch with the Sikh Coalition. I think what we've done with the hate crimes and everything in there has really changed the US with how they view Sikhism. And so I think that type of work is very, very helpful, and it really does change things for everyone.
ਜੀ 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 ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਹਨ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਰੋਲ ਹੈ, ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ, ਔਰ ਇਹ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਇਨ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨ, ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਉਣ, ਹੋਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਨ। ਨਾਟ ਜਸਟ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੋਲੇਸ਼ਨ, ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਇੰਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਸੈਲਡੈਫ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀ ਅੱਛੀ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਉਹ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇ ਗੈਟ ਯੂ ਇੰਟਰਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਵਿਦ ਦ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ। ਇਜ਼ ਇਟ ਰਾਈਟ? ਸੈਲਡੈਫ ਇੱਕ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ
I have to work with SALDEF, but I have seen that they have that they have some sort of program that's like that. It sounds about right.
ਜੀ 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 ਇਹ ਯੂ ਨੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਯੂ ਨੋ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਦੀ ਬਾਂਹ ਫੜਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਔਰ ਬਾਂਹ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੱਧਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲਾਅ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਅਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਐਸਪਾਇਰਿੰਗ ਯੂਥ ਹੈਗਾ, ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੋਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ?
I'm going to tell you to, again, follow your passion. And if you can see it, there's now so many Sikh attorneys. I mean, look, the fact that you're a host and you're a Sikh attorney, I really think that we should tap into our own networks. You know, one of the things that I noticed when I had gone to law school and the students around me, they all had parents or an uncle or somebody who was a lawyer. And I thought, how am I going to get this experience? How am I going to find out what I'm supposed to do next? Now, as Sikhs, we don't have that problem. We have enough people that we can call, lean on. That's the beauty of our culture and our religion, is that we can just pick up the phone and call, you know, Tinku's mom or somebody and get them and ask them questions, and we should do that. And we really, really need to rely on our community to lift one another up. Like you said, baah fad ke sanu karna chahiye hai, and so we should definitely use everybody and all the platforms we have, including mine.
Manpreet ji, that's so profound. I thank you so much, Manpreet ji, for taking out the time today. और मैं again viewers ਨੂੰ और सारे साडे young viewers ਨੂੰ particularly ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ you know, we have Manpreet ji, she just became a judge and she's extremely busy. I was trying to reach her, I could not reach her. I used the Gurdwara route, went through her mother, and you know, as she says, we are all here for each other. We can reach out. ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜੋ ਬੰਦੇ you know in positions ਤੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਦੇ ਹਨ, others need to reach out. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੋ, and you know there is somebody to hold your hand, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਮਨਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜੀ, we are so thankful for taking out the time today. ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸ਼ੁਕਰੀਆ।
And thank you so much for having me. As I said, this is not just my win, it's everyone's win. So for you to highlight my election and my position, very, very thankful for that. So thank you so much. Sat Shri Akal, thank you.
Thank you so much. Sat Shri Akal. ASIN, Harris County, Texas, the first elected Sikh woman judge, Manpreet Singh ji. ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੇਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਫਿਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਾਂਗੇ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward.